go.
All right. Greetings, everyone. A joyous feast of our Lord's ascension into heaven. I'm Father Photius Avant, the pastor of St. Saba Orthodox Church in Allen, Texas. And I don't really have a show or anything. I don't know, maybe I'll change that or whatever. I'm just, I'm a third-rate YouTuber. I'll say that. I've got about 500 followers or so. So, maybe we can bump that up to 501, or maybe I'll lose them all from this video. So, who knows? But I just decided I wanted to interview somebody. I wanted to interview someone interesting. And I think that my guest today is a very interesting person. His name is Joseph Sciambra. He is the author of this book, Disordered, which is an autobiographical account of the gay lifestyle in San Francisco. It's a harrowing account. It's not for the faint of heart, it's a wonderful book, but it's very scary. And I'm actually a fan of horror literature. There's always some aspect of fun in horror. There was no aspect of fun in this. This was just upsetting, but necessary. It was very necessary. It gives an unflinching look at the gay lifestyle, and showing how Mr. Sciambra came out of that. And how he is, I'll say that. So with all of that, how are you this morning, Joseph?
Hi, Father. Thank you. I'm very well.
Praise God. Praise God. Well, thank you for agreeing to do this. I've read your work, and I have to say I'm very impressed. You're kind of a rebel, all I can say is I'm kind of I like rebels, guys who kind of go against the grain and aren't afraid to ask the big questions and tip over the sacred cows, that sort of thing. And whatnot. This is June, so it's Pride Month, and the corporations are laying it on especially thick, don't you think?
Yeah, it gets bigger and bigger. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I go way back. So I came out as gay in 1988. So I never recall it. I don't recall the month of June being celebrated in this way 30 years ago. I mean, the first gay pride parade in the United States was in San Francisco in 1970.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I was 1 year old. So
goodness gracious.
So I mean, that was a big day. It was always the last Sunday of the month in June. But I don't recall it being extended out from a day to a month.
Yes, sir. Or indeed, big corporations, flying the flag.
No, not at all.
Levi's, all this stuff. It's kind of, I don't know, it's virtue signaling, and it's kind of comical because the corporations really don't have to change anything about themselves. We won't pay attention to the way they treat their people, or to the manner in which they procure their resources, and any dodgy dealings like that. But because they're flying the flag, we'll give them a pass.
Yeah, the first parade I went to was in '89. I don't remember any type of corporate sponsorship.
No, there wouldn't have been, not at that time. So, well, I have to say, in all of this, I've talked about this in church. I've mentioned this in my sermons before, but what is at the heart of all of this is a Freudian anthropology, a model of man which asserts that man is no more than the sum total of his appetites. Yeah. This strikes me as troubling, because if we are to identify ourselves, the whole concept of sexual identity is thoroughly troubling, that we would identify ourselves with so narrow an aspect of our existence, that for all of man's complexities, the fact that, man is self-aware, he has the ability to ask, who am I? What am I? Where am I going? A dog doesn't ask or answer these questions. A dog doesn't know that he's a dog. The dog knows, sleep, play fetch, eat, drink, mate, defecate, urinate, lather, rinse, repeat. That's it. But when you assert that a human being is no more than the sum total of his appetites, how then is man very different from a dog?
Well, he's not. Yeah,
he's not. No. And so how is man more, in any way, more special, unique? He's not, and I consider it really the most degrading view of human beings that there is. I would say, Nietzsche had a slightly better anthropology. At least he allowed for the possibility of some cutthroat action and, asserting yourself through the will to power. At least he had that, but with this, it's just, well, you're just your appetites. You are your appetites. I've seen people say that, they're so proud of this relative or this friend, for being true to themselves in this way. And I'm just like, true to themselves, they're following their appetites, and the appetite of function of the human person is one that we all experience, and to a certain degree we don't have any control over. We have control over whether we answer the call or not, and so that's that's all I kind of I've been rather troubled about this. I've got to say, I've also been slightly troubled at the reaction against Christian people who who say that they love homosexuals, but they do not approve of homosexual activity, and they acknowledge it as sinful. And the response to that has been, well, you hate us. You hate us. That's it. Because you are not celebrating this with me in this manner. Anything short of total celebration, is unmitigated hatred. Okay, and you can't even be neutral. Okay, being neutral, oh, leave me out of this. Oh no, you hate me too. Okay, you have to celebrate. Which. Sorry. I apologize. You still with me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. My pharmacy called me. I'm like, not now, guys. I'm sorry, doing this on my phone, and I really suck at technology.
No, no, you're doing good.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but let's see here. I was and it derailed me. My ADD. Where was I, Joe?
You were talking about if a Christian opposes the homosexual the activity of a homosexual, the gay person will say, well, you hate me. So
you hate me. And the logic is really, it's perfectly that of the pimply-faced 13-year-old, the surly 13-year-old who you tell them, no, you can't stay up till 1 a.m. on a school night. Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me? And it's just like, well, my dear, I do not hate you. I love you. And because I love you, I'm not going to allow you to stay up till this time because you're going to feel like garbage in the morning. And you're going to be even surlier than usual. So yeah, I don't understand why you hate me. Okay, it's that logic. It really is. There's no way around it. What I wanted to talk to you this morning, Joe, was I wanted to hear a little bit about your journey of healing. Just a little bit of background about you. What led you into the lifestyle, what led you out of it, and what has helped you on your way out, as it were.
Sure. You're pushing my intellectual capacity, Father, with that.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. No, it's good because I have to concentrate on every word you're saying. Okay. I think I got it. Yeah.
Okay.
For Freud, I sometimes feel like I have to defend him, but because there's some good stuff there.
Oh yeah, there is. No.
Yeah.
And he's a mixed bag.
I agree.
And there certainly is some good stuff there. I agree. Yes, sir.
I mean, his theory of like family romance is like really important in terms of like the gay question, because I think the relationship between a child with his mother and his father, I mean, it plays out later in life. So
well,
and he talked about that. So
he does, and it is instrumental in the shaping of sexuality. It is indeed. I would be hesitant to say it is as he frames it. I have some reservations about that, but that it is a factor, in the shaping of the psyche of the child and the shaping of, his sexuality. I don't deny that at all.
Yeah, the most famous would be like the Oedipal complex, but that
I don't go for that.
I think
that's just me.
I think part of it is true, especially with gay men.
Oh, yes.
It is, because that has to do with the mother and the father and an over protective mother. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So maybe there is some substance there,
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Well, cool. I am by no means an expert on this, which is why, I solicit, the stories of people. I want to know about people's stories. I want to know about people's experience with this, and yeah.
And also one thing you said about people identifying, with their physical urges, I guess you could say.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think I know it's more complicated now because I mean there is like a certain gay culture and gay aesthetic.
Oh yes, sir.
I mean even like in the 70s or the 60s there maybe wasn't so much a gay culture, but there was definitely like a gay aesthetic that
yes, sir.
that certain men identified with. So it kind of went just beyond their sexual inclination, but
yes, sir.
And that's more true now because there actually
yes, sir.
There actually is like a gay culture or LGBTQ culture or something that
very much so. And it's interesting. It's upsetting, but it is interesting. So how do you find your way, to that culture in the first place?
Me personally?
Yes, sir.
Well, it was back in '88, so I've said it like 100 times, but that was a bad year to come out. Because AIDS was a death sentence back.
Yes, sir, it was. Yeah.
That wasn't until '94 when AIDS deaths sort of peaked and then dropped because they had antiretrovirals which lowered the I don't know, it's kind of complicated and I don't understand it, but lowered the virus level in people. So I mean, still had HIV, but the levels were so low that you wouldn't get AIDS. It
Yeah,
wouldn't.
you could survive. You could beat it, as it were. Living with it. But it was no longer the death sentence that it used to be.
Right, right. So that was a bad year when I came out.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah, but I mean, I had grown up in the 70s and in the 80s, and then in the 70s, you probably don't remember that because you're younger than me. But
I was born in the 70s, so
okay.
yeah,
Well, I was a
at
little
the
kid.
very tail end of the 70s. So
I was born 69. So
okay.
I mean, yeah, in the 70s is really the first decade that you had um like gay people in like pop culture. You had like
Yeah.
like Elton John and the
Yes,
Village
sir.
People.
Yeah.
And I always mention Jack Tripper. He wasn't a real person, but like
Yes.
on
Yeah.
Three's Company, or like Billy
Yeah.
Crystal on Soap, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So it wasn't like a weird thing anymore,
Yeah. Yeah. And this is very much in keeping with, kind of the unfolding of the sexual revolution. If all aspects of it are to be explored, well, certainly homosexuality needs to be explored, and dealt with on the cultural level, which is, what the media is doing, kind of softening people up for it, that sort of thing. A character here and a character there, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So in a weird way, growing up as a boy this is where it gets kind of sticky because that's the wrong word. This is where it gets kind of tricky, is that I don't believe that people are born gay or that God made them gay,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there's a weird kind of intersection between environment and sometimes temperament.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So as growing up, I would say I was a pretty sensitive kid. More so, I couldn't see it when you're a little child, you can't self-analyze yourself
Yeah. Yeah.
or look outside of like your situation. But looking back, I can see that even I didn't have many friends who were boys, but I remember the ones that were around me, I would say didn't have it that much easier than I did in terms of like other boys like teasing us or bullying us.
Mm.
Because I have to say I was around boys that were kind of I guess rejects like me. And
Yeah.
yeah. So but to me, I was very sensitive and things would bother me
Mm.
much more than anybody else.
Mm. Okay. That kind of personal dynamic, certainly affected your interaction with your peers, and I would say probably more importantly than their perceptions of you, your perceptions of yourself.
Yeah, and of them, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think good little boys can be pretty cruel, but so can little girls.
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah.
but in a different way. But I think it's
Mm-hmm.
important, like um I think little boys learn the interaction, I mean the different way that women interact and men interact and men and women interact with each other at home.
Mm.
And I didn't really learn that at home.
Interesting.
So I grew up more around my mom and my sisters.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of interaction with men at home. So I
Mm.
actually didn't know how, you know,
That's interesting.
there's a show that I like. I don't know if it's still on, but it was called Fixer Upper. It's that couple in Texas. They're in Waco,
Yes,
Texas.
sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. I'm familiar with the show.
Oh,
HGTV. It's
okay.
huge around here.
Oh, well, it's interesting because the father, I like the mom and the dad and the kid. It's interesting that you see the different way that the dad interacts with the kids, especially the sons, as opposed to the mother.
Yes.
So I like that show.
Yeah, and I agree. Moms and dads have very different ways of interacting with their kids. One of my professors in seminary was talking about when you have a baby, and how how a woman acts with a baby and how a man acts. He says the woman will cradle the baby close to herself and be gentle. He says the man picks up the baby and holds it up over his head and makes faces and smiles, hey, and twirls him around, and interestingly enough, that some people think, oh, that's terrible, men shouldn't do that. No, men should do that. It's natural to men to do this. This is the way men interact with children, and children need that as much as they need the nurturing from their mothers. It's necessary for just on the most basic level their cognitive development, but then as they get older, their sense of self, and
yeah, and it just as an anecdote, I mean, most of the gay guys that I knew had very close relationships with their moms. Like, oh,
yes.
I talked to my mom last night, and or my mom's coming to visit San
Yes, sir.
Francisco, and dad, not if he's around, he's not part of the picture.
There's a reason it's a stereotype,
Well,
yeah, because it's just that's the way it is, and that is that's a crucial aspect in it.
I got off track, Father. Sorry.
You're fine. You'll have to forgive me because my ADD kicks in at times, and I'm just like squirrel, and whatnot. But you're talking about your childhood and your interactions with your peers, and then what leads you to San Francisco? Okay, I think that's kind of the big question. What leads you there?
Yeah, that's why I kind of start with that stuff when I was a boy, because that really plays a big part of why I went there, because I never felt a part of like, I never had like male camaraderie or male companionship as a boy or a teenager. And then as like a teenager, I hung around more with girls.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Kind of typical too. So
yeah.
So when I got out of high school, I was kind of like, I didn't know what I was going to do. And some of my friends were going to college and here or there. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to like go find myself. So, so I figure a good place to do that was, I didn't live in San Francisco at that time, but right outside. So I went just like less than an hour drive. So I went to the city because I knew that that's where there was the neighborhood where gay men were. And those days you didn't have the internet, so you couldn't go on and online and chat or any of those things. So you had to go down there and be there, and that's what I did, because I figured, well, I'll be in a place that I feel like will be accepting of me. I won't be teased, and it was true. Those things were all true. I did find a place that was accepting. It looked loving, and it looked supportive, and it looked encouraging.
Yeah.
And a place where I could relax, because I would say growing up I was pretty tense, because a part of me was always kind of like you said, like I'm a rebel, always kind of rebelling, and didn't try to hide who I thought I was. But then there was always a part that was trying to conform and be like, I don't want to show my true identity or whatever, what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And then so when I went to San Francisco, I was like, I felt very free, and I was happy for a while.
Yeah.
And I was lonely too. A lot of people are just it. I mean, loneliness is a big deal. It sounds kind of silly, but I was lonely.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
people need companionship. And I wasn't even thinking about sex. See, I'm not even saying anything about
yeah,
sex.
yeah, yeah. It
I just,
yeah,
yeah, I just,
companionship, basic human companionship.
exactly. I just wanted friends, and I specifically wanted male friends.
Yes, yes. Okay. Now, so I'm interested in this aspect of it. Um, you know, how would you characterize, just same-sex attraction for men, but also just the kind of some common denominators that you find there. Because it's common for our culture to say that this is just an orientation, it's proper, it's natural, blah blah blah. Um, the DSM no longer qualifies it as a mental illness, and which I do understand, doing that, because I would not say that it's a mental illness as such, not like depression, not like schizophrenia, not like personality disorders. I think it operates on another level, but again, I would like to ask you, how would you characterize same-sex attraction from men? How does that operate?
Ooh, yeah, that was in 1973. You're talking about, what is that? The Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental
Yes,
Disorders.
sir. Yeah, 1973 got taken off. And before that, and this should be known, that people are going to psychiatrists, who experience same-sex attraction, and psychiatrists are doing terrible things to people to kind of reorient them, using shock therapy and things like that. And it's just like, that is ghastly, but yeah. So again, how would you characterize this?
Yeah. Um, hmm. I think that the brain is a unique organ for, I think people, everybody has a liver, or
Yes, sir.
or hopefully at least one kidney, and they tend to function in the same way. They might be more adept at doing their job than
Yes,
others,
sir. Yeah.
but I think everybody's brain is very unique. It's a unique organ,
Truly. Yes, it
yeah,
is.
and they're all different.
Yes, sir.
So, because a lot of times when I describe what I say is like the classic gay boy syndrome,
Mm,
I kind of hinted at, a lot of people will say, well, I had those experiences. Like I had a distant father, or an abusive
mhm.
father, or an absent father. And
Sure.
I had sort of a domineering, controlling mother or
Uh,
something, or I was abused or something. And
yeah.
I'm not gay.
Yeah.
Right. But
Sure.
and that makes sense, because
And that's
homosexual
you and your brain. That's
ex,
you. Okay. That's
exactly.
that's not me, and that's not these other guys here. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because people don't realize this, is that a homosexuality is rare in men. It's about 2%.
Mm,
Some people say it's 10%. Some people say it's 20%. Yeah, they inflate it. It's pretty rare.
yeah. Yeah.
So the homosexual response to some sort of like trauma in
Mm,
life, again, it's rare. So
yeah.
most men, I would say, that if they've experienced some, and when I say trauma, a lot of people think, oh, that's got to be something catastrophic. Well,
Mm.
I would say a, a dismissive or overly critical father
Yes, sir.
as a boy can be traumatic.
It is traumatic. Truly. Yeah. That definitely qualifies as trauma.
If your dad never encourages you, that's traumatic.
It is. Yes, sir. It is very much so. Yeah. Yeah.
I like Jordan Peterson, and he did this interview, and he's been sick, but he talked about when he used to travel around the world doing these talks, and it's
Mm.
like he would say 90% of the audiences are men,
Mm.
and he said that a lot of men would come up to him and they saw him as kind of a father figure,
Mm.
and the men would just say, I wasn't encouraged as a kid.
Yeah.
And he found like Jordan Peterson, who had like these little simple catchphrases like, clean your own room before you try
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
fix
Yeah.
the
Make your
world.
bed. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of men never heard that
Mm.
growing up.
Yeah.
So a lot of men just that sort of difficulty in their childhood or it manifests in a different kind of dysfunction later.
Yes, sir.
I mean, look at all the men who are in their 30s and don't want to marry and have no
Oh,
interest in
yeah.
having children or
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty widespread, and it's definitely a problem,
so the I know now I got myself off track. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that a lot of people have had difficult childhoods or some sort of trauma, but it doesn't itself in homosexuality. It's
Yes,
rare.
sir. Yeah.
And I think it does have to do with temperament because and this is kind of anecdotal, but what I've noticed is there's a sensitivity in people that later come out as LGBT.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, and that's very helpful. I appreciate those insights. Some of these things, I have observed in people, and that certainly that certainly makes sense. It's like you said. Everyone's brain is unique. And not everyone's going to respond, the same way.
No.
And for some people, they will respond in this way. Which it sounds like with regard to the nature nurture dynamic, you would place this largely within nurture. Nature does have a say in it, and I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Right.
Is this accurate? Yeah.
But I think it has to do with temperament or personality.
Temperament. Yeah.
Yeah. But but I think even that can be formed early on.
Yes, sir.
Before people have any sort of memory, because a lot of gay people will say, "I always remember being this way."
Sure.
But, I mean, just the interaction, like you talked about, basic things with a child, between a father and a son, or a mother and a son. That can imprint pretty powerfully.
Yes, sir. Yeah. No, no doubt about it. Yes, sir. And it does make sense, and it helps me to make sense of this phenomenon.
And Father, every gay person, especially I don't, my experience is with gay women, with lesbians, and I don't know a lot, but every gay man I ever knew, there was some sort of strange dynamic in the family, and not like wildly strange.
Yes, but, not necessarily wildly dysfunctional, but some kind of dysfunction.
And what's interesting is that, because they kind of know where I'm coming from, and they're like, "Oh, Joe, this stuff is, I had a good relationship with my dad, my mom. There's nothing strange." And then if you talk about it a little more, it's kind of like I'm in my mind going, "That's really strange."
Yes. Yeah.
And
it's
people live with it, so it's familiar, and it doesn't sound odd to.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, like so for people who come from dysfunctional homes of one sort or another, it's like when you're born in the darkness, you don't know that's what it is. Okay. And you don't even really get any context for the fact that it was the darkness until later in life, or even ever at all. It's just like, for you, that was normal. Okay. The darkness was home, and that's the way you moved and breathed and had your being, was in the darkness, and it shaped you, so yeah, I get you there. That makes sense. Well, I wanted also to talk about your journey of healing, because you decided at a certain point to make a break with the gay lifestyle, with the Castro Club, to make. I read all of that, and I was like, sheesh. Some scary stuff, but you decided to make a break. What led you to make that break in the first place? I guess this is the first part of my question, and then the second part is, how did you wind up pursuing healing? But first, what led you to make the break?
I'm pretty hard-headed, Father. I'm like super stubborn.
Mm.
Yeah, I've been that way my whole life. I kind of feel like, because as a kid, I kind of felt like I was on my own a lot. I had to rely on my own like judgment and my own discern. That's not a
Yes.
good my own discernment of things. So like when I make up my mind,
Yeah.
you're not going to budge me. So so when I was gay, or living in the gay community, I was staying. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there for over 10 years, and I saw a lot of people die, but I was like, I'm not going. This is it. So I don't know, it's kind of weird. I don't know if I made the decision or God made the decision, but he definitely put it in pretty stark terms, saying, because I couldn't see it. He was like, Joe, this is where it's going. It's going to hell, or I'm going to give you a second chance.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I took the second chance. So,
Praise God.
Yeah.
Praise God. Well, it made all the difference. You're still here with us, and glory to God. As you wrote in your book, a lot of your friends were not so fortunate, and it's so tragic, that is the case, but that you came out alive is, just a blessing, so in deciding to leave that behind, what does your journey of healing look like? What steps did you take, or did you take any steps towards healing? Was it just time away, or what did that look like for you?
Yeah, all that stuff. Like blessedly, I had a place to go. Although I had been distant from my mom and dad, especially my dad, they never made me feel. Well, my dad made it clear that he couldn't. I'm trying to think of the right word. He made it clear that he wouldn't. Support's not the right word. He made it clear that he wasn't okay with like me doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I never felt like I couldn't come home.
Yeah.
I could come home. I couldn't come home with the menagerie that I was hanging out with.
Yeah, you couldn't come home with a guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Although I did do that. But then I knew that I couldn't. So I did go home, because while I was off doing my thing, my mom and dad had fallen away. I was raised Catholic. My mom and dad had fallen away, and then they had come back to Roman Catholicism. And they were really devout.
Yeah.
they'd been praying for me. So I came home and, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. I didn't know much about religion, or I was raised really in a flaky kind of weird form of Catholicism.
Yes, sir.
And so I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So I had a sort of weird kind of instinctual like belief that Jesus Christ was the one that saved me. So I felt like I needed to get to know him. So
Yes. Yeah.
so I did come home, and I didn't know what I was going to do, but I figured I would give Roman Catholicism another chance.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I did. And I met some good priests in the
Yeah.
Catholic Church.
Praise God.
I met some really rotten ones too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it's a mixed bag, unfortunately.
It is.
So but again, I'm stubborn. So I knew that gay was like a literal dead end.
Yeah.
So although I had priests that were like trying to shift me back in that direction,
which is just awful. It's just positively awful that any priest would do that.
I know. Well,
That's
considering considering the physical and like mental state I was in, it's pretty sick.
Yeah, no, that is sick. That's sick.
But I didn't buy it because I was like pretty stubborn at that point. I was like, no, I'm not.
Praise God.
I'm not going back to that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did meet a good priest, and he did help me out, and I got sort of on the path back to healing, where I started to figure out, well, no, I wasn't born this way. No, God didn't make me this way, and there's another, there's another way. And then I did meet a good Catholic. I don't know if you'd call him. Well, he was Roman Catholic. God rest his soul. Father Dr. Joseph Nicolosi of happy memory.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. I'm familiar with him and his work. Yeah, yeah.
In Los Angeles.
Controversial figure.
Yeah, still, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So I met him, and he helped me out a lot. A lot.
Yeah.
Because you go to your typical psychiatrist or psychologist or counselor, and you're gay, or you identify as gay.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
They're not going to do anything about that. And I was
they have a certain approach, because I've been on that side of the couch, I guess you could say.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk to you about this because you had talked about reparative therapy. You had mentioned this, and when I first heard about this, it was just question marks for me. I didn't have any context. I didn't know what it was. There are popular misconceptions about reparative therapy. I would like to know what it is, but perhaps it's necessary to talk first about what it is not. What is reparative therapy not?
Well, people like to call it conversion.
Yeah. It's not that.
Yeah, so that's kind of like, I guess the conception that people have in their mind is that somebody goes to, I don't even know if it's a psychologist or something, but I think there's kind of a popular imagination. People go to like these conversion camps.
Yeah, and don't be gay camp.
You pray the gay away.
Pray the gay away. Yeah.
Or they show, it's like something from Clockwork Orange. They'll show you.
Yeah. The Ludovico technique. It's just like, don't be gay. Be straight. With torture and that sort of thing, and shock therapy while playing Beethoven. I'm sorry, but
no.
But yeah.
I don't mean to be light, but to make fun of this, but because it's not my experience, but I haven't read a lot about it, but I apparently there have been people that have had bad experiences in that direction, but I think they've been typically associated with religious organizations.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. Which kind of take it upon themselves to, they want to turn the person around. They want them to have the proper orientation, and they think they can fix that. They think they can make that happen,
Yeah, and the videos like I've seen on YouTube and stuff of people that got involved with that, I don't think they were even people that had degrees in psychology or psychiatry, or people that were licensed. I don't know. It sounded pretty like quack medicine.
Yeah, yeah. And so there, there is an aspect to that, or that could be associated with reparative therapy, but that is not in fact what it is. When applied properly, when done by a licensed physician, what is it intended to bring about?
I don't know if it's intended to bring about anything.
Okay.
Because when with my experience with it, and any good psychologist, like I hate to have to slash let's say therapist.
Yes, sir.
Any good therapist will put, it sounds like my therapist speaking now, will put the patient in the driver's seat. So it's kind of like, okay, we'll do what you want to do. I'm not here, the therapist isn't going to be, I'm not here to make you straight.
Yes.
Or in like a year or 5 years or 10 years, you're going to be married to a woman and have kids and be happy, and you won't have any gay, you won't have any homosexual temptations or inclinations anymore.
Yeah.
That's not what it's about. So when I initially went to Dr. Nicolosi, I'd read one of his books, and what his books, the one that I'm thinking of in particular, is that it was a lot of his case studies that he had been involved with, where he talked about the men. I can't remember if there were any women. There might have been one or two, but he talked about the men that he had, I don't want to say treated, the men that he had seen in his practice. And again, there was a definite psychology there, or let's say gay boy syndrome, where it was often like a distant father or something. And I had, again, like anecdotally, although I had spent like over 10 years just around gay men, hundreds of gay men, and we never talked, like, men don't sit around and talk about their childhood or something. Even gay guys, although I think gay guys are a little more, I know it's a stereotype, or maybe are a little more open to sharing with other men than straight guys will. But I never heard of anything that I could later say that, well, there was a definite strain of, or there was a definite psychology there. But when I read the case studies that Dr. Nicolosi put in those books, I said, well, this definitely relates to me. And I remember when my friends speaking just something about their dad or their mom or something, or somebody came to visit from their family, and I noticed something strange, that this relates to them too. It sounds so basic, but when you're in that environment, like the gay community, I just always believed that I was born gay. And there wasn't anything to think about, figure out, discuss, or talk about. But when he laid it out,
and I'm sorry to cut in on you.
No, I'm rambling. Go ahead.
But to say nowadays, to say otherwise, you are saying, beyond the shadow of a doubt, you do not believe that you were born gay. Okay, that is heresy. You can't say that. You will be told, well, because science, and because genetics, and because how dare you say that.
They haven't found anything, though.
No, that's the thing. No, there's been no biological causation that in the Human Genome Project, we have honed in on this series of genes, and these are responsible for homosexual
well,
urges.
it's
not
kind of
fair.
like the 1973 thing with the DSM, is that there were no studies or anything that was introduced at that meeting that said, well, there's no psychological, impetus to homosexuality, therefore, let's just get rid of it. It's kind of same thing with the gay born thing. People are just kind of like, oh, well, that's the way it is. But there's really nothing there.
Nothing was presented there, and there is the popular perception that it was largely political, and removing it, which I don't, being too ignorant of the history, I cannot say that was the case.
It was.
Okay, well, and the history better than I do. And so it's just, it would appear to me to be that way.
Well, this was the beginning of like disruption politics. I mean, you had in the early 70s, you had the women's movement, the gay rights movement, and I mean, that's what they did a lot of times. They pressured, cajoled, pushed, threatened.
Yes.
And that's what happened. So.
Truly. Well, and so it's not unthinkable that it was purely political. Well, let's not talk about this.
And right before 2015 with Obergefell, that's when you really saw the born gay stuff really getting pushed, like with Lady Gaga and Born This Way and all that stuff. That's when you really, really saw it.
Yeah, you did. And it's so deeply ingrained, I would say, at the level of our cultural consciousness, that to deviate from that narrative, is positively heretical. You can't do it. Oh, so you think it's a choice? Well, no, I didn't say that either.
And the inconsistency, like with the transgender issue, because a lot of people that subscribe to this strain of thought will be like, well, you're not necessarily born male or female, but you're certainly born gay or straight.
Yeah, I know. How does that work? It's just that the logical inconsistency there.
Well, sexual orientation is not immutable. It's not, but gender is.
Yeah. Again, it's too problematic. It doesn't hold up even under its own scrutiny.
I used to make a joke because people would give me a difficult time because of that. I talked about, that I went to see a therapist about what I can get into this. I didn't go because of my homosexuality. I went for other reasons, but I could say, well, hey, I'm a straight man trapped in a gay man's body,
Yeah. That's that's shocking. You're what?
I'll say, hey, if I was born this way.
In Love Shack, when Fred Schneider, says you're what, it's like that. You can't say that. I'm sorry. I had to nerd out with the pop culture reference there. But you can't say that. So your journey of healing involves this therapist, and it's not even that you're going to him to kind of hey, can you fix this problem for me? That wasn't it. But you did say that he helped you to understand your triggers. He did help you to kind of understand, the underlying issues, as it were, related to your same-sex attraction. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think his approach, and I think a lot of people that do this kind of work, it's trauma-based, because I initially went to him because a lot of people who are gay have a lot of like comorbidities or whatever, if you want to call it that.
Yes,
But
sir.
I mean, depression is very high. Suicidality is
Very
very
much
high.
so. Yeah.
Much higher than straight men.
Yes, sir.
So
Yeah.
I
No,
was
no, that's
dealing with
true.
all those things, PTSD, and I couldn't figure out why I was on meds. And
Mhm.
so I went to him, and like I said, his approach was trauma based. I was like, well, I don't really have any trauma that I can talk about, you know.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
then we started discussing it a little bit, and it was like, oh yeah, my childhood was kind of rough. I mean, I got like brutally teased, beaten
Yeah.
up on,
Yeah.
verbally assaulted like
Yeah.
constantly. But
Yeah.
see, but see,
That's trauma. That
I
is
had
trauma.
I had
Yeah.
gone to the gay community where everybody's experience was like
Was the
that.
same. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That was another common denominator, is everyone had the same experience,
yeah. And then yeah.
yeah.
And then lo and behold, like when I was 16 and an older man had sex with me. And
Hmm.
I didn't think that was a trauma. I was like, well, that's just
Yeah. Oh, that's just, that's normal, right?
well, almost half of almost this is studies have shown this. Almost half of gay men were molested
yeah.
as children. So
Hmm.
again, like everybody had that kind of story.
Yeah.
So I didn't think it was weird. But then when I thought of it in a different when I looked at it from outside
Yeah.
of that world, it looked pretty different.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I think being able to see that so much of this was in fact rooted in trauma. Went a long way towards explaining what what influences you now, to act in a certain way, and I've heard you say before that you do not believe that reparative therapy is for everybody. It's
I don't think psychiatry is for everybody.
no, nor indeed do I. But I mean, that's one man's opinion, two men's opinions. What does that amount to? Nor indeed do I. It's here in the modern era, it's kind of the panacea. If we can, get a hold on
I
the person.
I think
Way.
more people are medicated than go to a psychiatrist. I mean,
Yeah,
I wish
yeah,
more people would go to psychiatrists than get medicated, because I
yeah,
mean, psychiatry is less invasive than medication. Because
yeah.
medication, you're actually messing with your biology.
Hmm. Hmm.
You're messing with like the chemical
Yeah.
balance. Where psychiatry, I mean, you're not. You're just talking to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and granted, there are certainly times when a person needs medical intervention,
Oh, I've done it.
when
Yeah.
when dealing with mental illness. Like you said, the brain is an organ, really kind of like any other, and sometimes it just needs some help. To function properly. It's one of those things.
But Father, people haven't looked into like a lot. I mean, I've known people that commit suicide, and
mm,
I don't think it's been looked at enough, the role that these medications play.
mm, yeah, yeah. That is interesting, and again,
Because a lot of times, Father, these people, because I know I've been there, people that are put on these medications, these like
mhm,
psychotropic, they're not, sometimes it's just a family physician
yeah,
that puts somebody, a general practitioner, that puts
yeah,
somebody
yeah,
on these serious hardcore medications.
yeah,
What kind of follow through is there, if there's
yeah.
any at all?
Yeah. That's certainly problematic. And yeah,
Well, because
there's
people end up dead.
yeah, Yeah. People do end up dead. People kill themselves, based on a bad reaction to, this or that medication. And again, I don't mean to mischaracterize any of this. I am not saying, all, medicinal intervention with
No,
regard
no,
to mental illness is bad.
no.
It's
Yeah.
just, it's very often mishandled. It's not
Yes.
handled appropriately. If you get a general practitioner who's just like, okay, here, whereas what you need is you need professional intervention, someone who deals with this primarily, and can give you feedback, and can give you the necessary follow-up to be able to handle that context. Context is everything. So,
I don't know how I got on that, but no, I'm not down at it either, because I've gotten in such a bad psychological state in my life where I couldn't come out of my room, and at that point you can't see a therapist. So you sometimes then a medication can get you out of that crisis. And
yes, sir. And I don't know. I'm kind of I will say, I'm interested in hearing more about reparative therapy and learning more about it. At this point, I still do not know enough about it to say I endorse this or I do not endorse this. Again, I'm still learning. You say it worked for you, and kind of helped you to understand some of your triggers. But you don't insist that it's for everybody, and that's cool. That's great.
People contact me almost every day about it, and I just say, hey, check it out. Hey, be informed.
Sure.
It's very difficult if you identify as LGBT and you're looking to go see a therapist. It's watch out, because most of them, 99% of them, are very affirming. And they'll say, if you're gay and if you're suffering from some sort of depression or PTSD or OCD or whatever, they will say that it's because of societal homophobia.
Societal homophobia, bullying because of this, and that is the root cause of this. This is the narrative. And by the way, this is the narrative. Oh yes, well, these people have this depression and this PTSD and all of these things because our society is heteronormative, and it's a big 50-cent word. Our society is heteronormative, homophobic, and openly and unabashedly oppresses these people. That is not the case. And this is not to deny the gay bashing that goes on. It does, okay? But that's not the reason for the depression, the PTSD. It's like you said, there is a comorbidity that goes with this, and and a great many, sadly, the majority of mental health experts are unwilling to address that.
Or if you were raised in a religious household.
Religion's the other culprit.
They'll say right away that that's the reason why you're suffering from some sort of mental illness. But it has nothing to do with, they won't look into, were you abused? Were you neglected? Nothing. Because it happened to me, even when I was a teenager and I had been molested. I don't mean to laugh, but it's so absurd. But I was pretty mentally ill after that, and nobody knew why, and I didn't know why. And the the psychiatrist that they sent me to, and I was in Catholic school at the time, but I was raised I was not raised strict Catholic at all.
Super devout,
very
not
liberal. Devout. Very liberal Catholic was the way I was raised. And he said, well, it's because you're gay, and it's because of the Catholic Church.
The oppressive Catholic Church.
He didn't ask if I had been molested.
Yeah. No, and that's kind of the sad state of things. I don't know. I've considered, your journey, and your journey of healing, and you've talked about where you are right now. You're in a much better place. You have a very healthy life, very healthy lifestyle, and whatnot. And I've got to say, I'm, just I rejoice that this is the case for you. It, you know, it's an important thing in in uh, my my background as an Orthodox priest, that I lead people to this understanding that the Orthodox doctrine of salvation is not that of juridical satisfaction. It's not appeasing the offended justice of the Father, and then getting an audience so that you can get into heaven, through the merits of Christ, or through the term just left me, imputed righteousness, which is basically merits but collapsed. Our understanding of salvation is that of healing, that Christ Jesus comes to heal human nature. He comes to make us well, make us whole. And that in Christ, when Pontius Pilate says, Ecce homo, behold the man, here is man truly. This is what it means to be man. And Christ accomplishes our healing in our liberation from those things which oppress us. That is the devil. You're not going to hear about that in popular culture. The devil's made up. Death, and sin. And sin is something else we don't want to talk about. But Christ has obtained victory over these, and he shares this victory with us in his church. And this healing, the more and more it is completed within us, the more and more we bear resemblance to him and become like him. And this is the doctrine of theosis, becoming like God. This is ultimately, not just what the person who suffers from same-sex attraction needs, but this is what every single human being needs. We need to have our nature healed. We need to be made whole, and the path to wholeness is we find within the church. We find it with clergy who are loving, who are willing to steer you right, and with brothers and sisters who are going on the same journey. This is what is offered in the Orthodox Church, and we are unpopular. I will say we are unpopular in that we do not affirm the LGBT agenda. There's not a single bishop in the church who does this. Do
you have a pride liturgies in the month of June?
No, nothing like that.
Okay, you didn't go down the Catholic road.
No. And not that there aren't people who want that. There are certainly people whose actual religion is progressive politics, but who like the smells and bells of orthodoxy, who want to try to cram orthodoxy through that progressive framework. That there are those people, and they want it to happen, but we don't have a mechanism by which that can happen. It's just, no, sorry, the liturgy is staying the way that it is. We're not going to alter our position just because of a hostile zeitgeist.
I'm being sarcastic. Would an Orthodox, like an OCA priest, would they hang the rainbow flag on the iconostasis?
Absolutely not, under no circumstances. Even if he agreed with it, and we do have a few very corrupt priests who go along with this, and they promote this as well as they can. Hopefully the bishop isn't looking, but even they would not be so bold as to do that. They wouldn't be so bold as to hang the flag, outside their church, or on the iconostasis. It wouldn't happen. Like I said, it's not that there aren't people who want that to happen. Judas is ever active among us.
Can I say something, Father? So
yes, sir.
Maybe, and I don't know. I'm looking at this, from outside. Maybe you guys are about 50 years behind the Catholics on this issue. I don't know. Because I would say in the 60s and part of the 70s, you wouldn't have had a Catholic priest be so bold as to drape the altar with the rainbow flag. But now we're at that point where it's moved beyond the theoretical, where a priest privately or even publicly ascribed, but it hasn't manifested in the real world. Whereas the Catholic Church, it has. We've already.
It's very. I think it's very difficult to measure that, just because, I would say of kind of the, the mental framework within the Orthodox Church is not that of modernity. Modernity grows organically from the conflict between Roman Catholicism and Protestantism, and each of them kind of contributes to that mess. And modernity, once conceived and once born, kind of goes back and influences both Protestantism and Roman Catholicism. Not dissimilar to the dynamic of parents having kind of a rebellious child, and one parent just refuses to interact with the child, but the other parent tries to start talking like the child and starts dressing like them in an effort to be cool, which is never cool. It's always lame. I would say very much this is what the Roman Catholic Church and the various Protestant churches are doing with regard to the LGBT phenomenon. Trying to look like the cool parent.
I can't imagine like a Russian Orthodox like baritone choir like booming out over the rainbow.
Yeah, absolutely not. No. Because for us, modernity kind of happens out there, and then it shows up and it starts shooting us. And so that's kind of our take on modernity. So we're not gonna have that. It just doesn't. It does not square with the way we perceive reality. We're still operating with the pre-modern mind. And so long as we do that, so long as we hold to the confession of Christ Jesus, people don't understand this really, but embracing this modern Freudian model of man actually does affect negatively our view of Christ. It winds up changing the goalpost, and it's not quite right. I'm going to have to be talking about this from the pulpit in the days to come, so tune in to our liturgies on Facebook, for some countercultural thinking, but yeah, it does have consequences, for the way we understand Christ. with the way we understand our relationship with God, and it's destructive. No good can come of this. Anyways. Well, I will not go on at length about that, and it's likely that we have exhausted our viewers' patience. But Joseph, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
It always is.
I would like to do this some more. This has been a fun conversation, and I want people to, be aware of this, that there's more than one regarding the predominant one in our culture, regarding, regarding LGBT perspectives. There's more than one perspective, yes, in our current discourse, if you can even call it that, we don't allow for deviancy of opinion. You are invited to agree with the idea, with a capital I, and whatnot. But people need to know that there are, in fact, multiple perspectives on this, and that healing is available. Healing for all people, wherever you're coming from, because ultimately we all need to be healed, So,
Father,
yes.
Father, it's important that you put this out there, because I say, like, the gay issue is one that everybody wants to talk about and nobody wants to talk about.
Yes.
And that everything has been said and nothing has been said.
Yeah.
Because what me and you talked about,
nobody's talking about this at all. And that's why I think this is necessary.
Well, and one last thing is that I see a lot of Christians. I've been offline, but now I'm kind of back on. Is that I see a lot of Christians Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, talk about the transgender issue.
Yes, sir.
And I think it's concerned a lot of people rightly. But I think they've moved on. We're in a post-gay culture. I think that's kind of settled. I don't think people talk about the gay issue anymore, especially after Obergefell, because I think a lot of times a law becomes immoral. People, it's law now. It's okay, and I think people think generally it's fine.
I get that impression as well. And so Saint Anthony the Great, said famously, a time is coming when all men will be mad, and they will say to those who are not mad, "You are not like us. You are mad." I'm just like, this, anybody? But at any rate, thank you, Joseph, for taking this time to talk to me. I hope a lot of people see our conversation, and I hope we can have some more conversations about this and whatnot. It is important, to know that there is indeed healing available. And the cultural narrative is not the only one. So I will end it with that. God bless you all who are watching. God bless you abundantly. God bless you, Joseph, for giving your time. And we hope to continue this conversation soon. So God bless everybody.